The employment crisis has striked to 2020 levels. You heard that right here, folks, for this one specific group. And it might be signs of bigger things ahead. Is it because of AI? That is what nobody's talking about. Everybody was worried about, oh, you know what? AI is going to take all of these different jobs. Well, it seems to be affecting one certain sector, which could have huge layover effects overall the entire economy and people in general. But first, let's get into the jobs crisis that we are seeing, just the numbers right off the jump for men age 16 to 24 with bachelor's degrees. Now, for those of you guys who have been following this channel, thank you. Please hit that subscription button for me. Help me get to 1K ASAP. But I've been essentially saying that I think AI will replace lower end jobs like the cashiers, like, all of these like cleaning, all of these like low end, potentially minimum wage type of jobs. What I didn't see coming is that it's going to be replacing lower end labor, such as entry level positions that you need a degree for. So let's dive into this a little bit more, because we are seeing 13.8% in August, the highest since June 2020. Now, with June 2020, of course, we had the entire world shut down. So this figure has doubled in 4 months. Over the last 40 years, there has only been a few times when this percentage was higher, which included 2 economic recessions. So by comparison, the unemployment rate for women rose to 7.1 last month, in line with historical levels. Meanwhile, the overall youth unemployment hit the highest in 9 years outside of the 2020-21 pandemic. So young men are getting hit hardest. So there is a job crisis, so to speak, with increased layoffs, rising unemployment, and underemployment with the shrinking labor force. Now, this is multifaceted because there is more layoffs, there's increasing unemployment and underemployment, growing long-term unemployment, stagnant or declining job growth, and shrinking labor force. But the interesting thing is this new study just came out about a month ago, where it's showing what kind of job workers are losing jobs according to AI. Now, if you look here, is it entry-level employment position has fallen and that are most exposed to AI. So no such decline has occurred in jobs where employers are looking to use those tools to support and expand. Workers are using those tools to support and expand what employees do. So they're saying they don't necessarily need these lower end employees, right? So instead of previously they had these entry level positions, well, now they don't need those guys because they'll just give their top dogs AI, and the top dogs will be able to use AI efficiently. And once they use AI efficiently, well, that essentially doesn't require the need for these lower entry level positions. So as of last year, 23% of employers were using generative AI in their jobs at least once per week. So workers can learn to use AI, can help themselves do the job's positions better for today's labor market. And a recent report said that AI staffing found that starting salaries for entry-level AI workers rose 12%. So the ability to use AI effectively and making yourself more productive, well, that seems to be the hack here. But the jobs data is showing the layover effects from all of this here, where we're starting to see that, not like, I've covered this before, but my God, it's still so shocking to go back and look that there was nearly 1 million jobs that were revised that just poof, magically disappeared, that originally were allegedly there. So look, all right, 1 million is slightly exaggerated, but 911,000, the largest downward revision in history. So it suggests that the labor market has been weaker for longer than previously understood. And these job revisions are at 2009 levels. I mean, look at that big red candle here. It's absolutely massive to see these kinds of job revisions. And it's not just, me and these other people that are saying it. It's young workers' unemployment rate has been increasing over the past few months. And in the last few years, the unemployment rate of recent graduates has surpassed overall unemployment. So everybody's saying, oh, go to college. You're going to find a job almost immediately. Well, this data shows that that is not the case. In fact, these recent graduates are having a very hard time finding jobs right from the jump. So, jobs data comes out later this week, and we're seeing some of these predictions start to come out, and it looks like there is going to be a huge movement here in the potential of jobs, right? I mean, of course, they're going to say, oh, the jobs market is fine. It is something that, we shouldn't necessarily be worried about right this second, right? But we do have some craziness in this market where it's showing the potential of all of these job large and the project of future growth declining. Because when you look at all of this, it's essentially like, all right, if we sit down and look at how much the job market is declining and what is going on, well, I mean, we've seen it, tariff revenue spiking up, all of these other, GDP is absolutely soaring. Like, we're seeing historic numbers in GDP growth, yet when we see factors like this, right, the jobs numbers coming in and being extremely poor, you have to wonder, what is the actual overall state of this? So if you look at the GDP, the nominal GDP growth, it's risen 54% since 2020, excuse me, marking the largest economic expansion since World War II. So it surpasses the 53% growth recorded in 75 to 78, and it corresponds with an average annual GDP growth of 6%, indicating rapid expansion. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when you see historic numbers from GDP like this, and essentially saying, hey, you know what? This is the fastest expanding economy ever by the numbers. Would you assume that we would have a jobs crisis? I don't think so, right? So a lot of this data that is being reported, well, let's just say it's a little hairy to say the very least. Now, I like to look at, this website Govflation because it looks at how we're reporting the differences, right? Now, these are old inflation data. Like they haven't updated it, the official government headlines here for GDP. But, you could see that the GDP was shrinking in Q4 of last year, and they reported a positive gain. And this is from, how they used to report GDP. They changed the numbers, it looks like in 84, 85 time. And you see that gap is just getting wider. And so the funny thing is that the real GDP is always undershooting, right? So real GDP is showing that we have a shrinking economy, whereas GDP that's being reported by the government always shows that we have a growing economy. Now, obviously, that is not a good thing when you have decisions like this FOMC, the interest rates being determined on data that, let's say, is just being manipulated. So now we're looking at an 89.9 or 0.8, excuse me, percent chance to cut interest rates at least by 25 basis points here. So I think that this is going to be a growing trend where we're going to start to see, we're going to start to see the potential of these interest rate changes. We're going to see some of those changes start to come into fruition, shine some light on the overall cracks underneath the economy. I mean, we're seeing the Dixie. I mean, I was told that the Dixie was primed to break out this week. But hey, those were not my words. We're seeing the Dixie at 97.3. And I think that, when we look at how we're seeing the overall economy, the Dixie makes more sense than the stock market because we're having another historic close to the stock market today. It looks like tomorrow at this pace, we're going to see freaking the stock market close the first time over 6,700. That's my call because, I mean, it's nothing crazy. I mean, we've got less than a 1% move just to go up. And we just had a major deal get closed between Nvidia and OpenAI. Now, as Foster is saying, the U6 unemployment is very high and a lot bigger, and the GDP is goosed by government spending. But the unique thing about this all-nighter hider is that I actually don't think it is goosed by that because I mean, maybe slightly, but GDP was going down dramatically at the beginning of this year because government spending has been cut. Now, of course, we have a huge spending problem here in the US, but we did implement the Doge to essentially try to combat some of that. Now, of course, the Doge needs to continue to be in effect, and of course, it's saving some money and some spending over time. But I think, we're seeing a lot of this tariff revenue coming in. But at the end of the day, the government still has a spending problem, as All Nighter Hider is saying and hinting at here. It's not all peaches and daisies just because we implemented this Doge, right? But the AI revolution is absolutely huge. And I'm going to show you guys this crazy candlestick chart here from Nvidia here in a second. But I mean, when you look at how big this AI revolution is coming, Nvidia is investing up to 100 billion in OpenAI for more computing power. The next goal is to build and deploy 10 gigawatts of Nvidia systems to run the next generation of OpenAI models. And on September 18th, that was last week, OpenAI and Oracle announced another 300 billion deal for more computing power. So this is going to continue to keep on trucking along because we're just going to basically need more computing power to handle all of this. So it's not just computing power for Bitcoin mining, right? It's AI too. I mean, both of these things are nuts. So when we see OpenAI make a deal with Nvidia, well, what is subsequently happening? Bing, this candlestick is just absolutely hockey sticking up. It surges to a record high, hitting its new all-time high after announcing it, and it added 200 billion to its market cap in literally 1 hour. That is crazy. These hockey stick charts like this are just absolutely insane, folks. Maybe I'll do a full-on video just on this tomorrow. I'm going to be keeping up with all of the gossip going on here in the overall markets. Make sure you guys are smoking that like Cheech and Chong, like All Nighter Hider is saying. Hit the bell notification so you guys can go live with me and talk to me a little bit. Tell me some of your questions, and I will catch you guys all at the next one.